Alright, this is John Cola with GrowingYourGreens.com. It's a beautiful February day here in California. The sun's setting, it's getting dark pretty soon, so I want to make sure I get this video done. But today's episode is what it's about is, what do I do with all this food? I have a lot of things growing here, and people ask me, hey John, how do you store your food? How do you use it? How do you preserve it? What do you do with it? So what we're going to do today is we're going to walk around my garden. We're going to harvest a bunch of the food and some of the different things I'm growing right now in February. So it's a winter garden basically. And I'm going to show you what I do with it, and that's what I would encourage everyone to do with their greens. So the first thing is I basically let Mother Nature be my refrigerator. It's the winter time here. It gets pretty cold at night and it's not too warm in the day either, but in nature, there's no such thing as refrigerators. Every animal goes around, and if it's a herbivore, it eats things fresh off the plant, and if it's a carnivore, it'll kill something and then eat it unless it's a scavenger or something like that right then and there. So that's what we want to do whenever possible. We want to harvest our food and then eat it right then and there. So last night for dinner, I picked my tree kale up there, and I probably picked about a pound of it and just cut it up and put it in the bowl. So we're going to show you how I did that in just 1 second. And I pretty much choose to eat everything raw. So I eat all my fruits and vegetables raw. I eat a high percentage of fresh fruits and vegetables. Fresh fruits and vegetables are very, very, very nutritious and very good for us. When you start cooking, especially the vegetables, and people don't usually cook the fruits, but when you cook the vegetables, it basically kills the enzymes and lowers the nutrition in there. So I encourage everybody to eat things fresh and raw, just like other animals. And think about it, other animals on earth, no other animal on earth cooks their food. So I'm not saying eat all raw, but increase your percentage of raw, and especially if you have a garden, you know how good your own food in your garden tastes, and why not enjoy its full taste sensations by eating it fresh and raw. So now we're going to go over some of the ways that I use my fresh vegetables, or especially the leaves right now this time of year, since it is winter, don't have much else. How I prepare my leaves to eat, basically, or consume. So the number one thing is, the easiest way is to, number one, just make a salad. So I have a big salad bowl, and this is my actual salad bowl I use every night, and I fill it up to the top. So we've just picked a couple greens, and this would not nearly be enough as I would need to eat for a meal. But something like the collards and the kales, I like to just take, and then what I'll do is I'll just literally roll them up. I'll roll them up like that, and then I'll just take my knife. And then when you're cutting up the collards or the kale in small little strips like this, which you could also do this with a food processor with the slicing disc, which will save you some time. But when you cut up the kales like this, you're going to get a different taste sensation in your mouth, and it's going to taste a lot nicer. And it's already going to be partially broken down, because it is very important when we're eating, especially these fibrous foods like kales and leaves, we really need to chew our food really well, and most people don't chew their food quite enough. So it's all about changing the texture. I did do another show on how to use zucchini, and I use a special tool to make noodles out of zucchini, but that's in the summertime. This is the winter time. So as you can see, I literally just chopped all this up, and I'd have to fill my bowl up, so that's what it was last night, just basically the tree kale, or tree collards, in the bowl. Best way, harvest it when you need it, cut it up, serve it as a salad, and I would make a salad dressing. So salad dressing I would put over that is, I have a citrus press, I squeeze my own oranges, or this time of year tangerines, and I'll have orange juice, and then I'll put the orange juice or tangerine juice in the blender with some whole raw macadamia nuts, and blend it up. So I have a really high power blender here. It'll really blend up the orange juice and the macadamia nuts and make an orange cream sauce. So it's really simple and really easy. I mean, if not, use a dressing from the store. If it will make you eat more of your vegetables uncooked, I think it's definitely a good thing. So number one, eat it as a salad, eat it raw, and change the texture so you're not eating whole leaves. Number two way that I like to do is, if I pick the leaves whole, I'll actually put it in my blender and make a smoothie, or what's called a green smoothie. And green smoothies are very important because they allow you to eat more leaves or more vegetables in your diet. So a standard green smoothie recipe could be something like, I would use some coconut water, but you can use some purified water, and then put some bananas that you peeled bananas, sometimes fresh, sometimes I'll also use frozen. That'll give it a nice kind of milkshakey consistency with some greens. So a bunch of greens and maybe like 3 or 4 bananas and some water or coconut water, and blend that up. And basically when you drink that, it's gonna look all green, of course, but when you drink it, you're pretty much gonna taste the sweetness of the bananas, and you're not even gonna taste the greens in there. So that's definitely a good way to get more greens in your diet and use some of the greens that you're growing. Another way that actually uses a lot of my produce, and I mean, I'm serious, I'm talking a lot of produce, is a juicer. So this is basically this is a single auger style juicer, a vertical auger actually, and this basically takes in the produce. You know, you'll put in the produce in this hopper, and out one side will come the pulp, and one side will come the liquid. So basically, it's separating the fiber from the liquid. The liquid is actually what feeds us. So for example, you could put in 1 whole pound of dino kale, for example, and you may only get, you know, I don't know, less than half a cup of juice from 1 pound of dino kale. So you could see, you know, as I pick these, I juice it and it disappears really fast. So that's why I grow so much food, because when you're juicing it, it disappears really quickly. And once again, I only harvest as much as I will need for this juicing time. And every day, generally either juice or blend, and also eat a salad. So the next way I like to use my produce is, this is kind of more for fun. It's always freshest is bestest, and we want to eat everything that we grew fresh, pick it, and then eat it. Sometimes you do need to preserve things. So for example, at the end of tomato season, my tomatoes were getting frosted out, and I needed to do something with them because I didn't want them to go bad, and I can't just eat that many tomatoes. So that's why I recommend something like a food dehydrator. This is the Liquid food dehydrator. You could set it has an adjustable thermostat, so you could set the temperature, and it has a built-in timer. And what I like to do is I'll dehydrate my tomatoes, and so I'm still using my tomatoes. We're here in February. I'm still using my tomatoes from last year, and I'll probably run out about the time I'm getting new tomatoes in. So that's definitely a good way to preserve it. I'm not really into freezing things too much, but you could also do that as well. I don't know if I'd freeze tomatoes. But some of the fruits, the fruits that I grow, I don't grow enough fruits. I have so much, I'll just eat it. And sometimes for fun, I'll dehydrate it. So I was dehydrating persimmons this year. But the other thing with the leaves, so especially with the things like dino kale, there's something in the raw foods movement called kale chips, and they're actually really delicious. You'll make a dressing kind of like I talked about with macadamia nuts and orange juice, spread that on the kale, and then put that in the dehydrator, and it'll make a kale chip, and it'll just be 100% kale with a sauce or dressing. But what you could also do is you could literally take your greens that you grow, pick them, and then immediately put them into your food dehydrator and dehydrate them. And what will happen is you'll get these dried leaves, and these dried leaves are crunchy. And it's yet another way to, utilize things you grow. So if I go on a trip, I'll take some of the dehydrated leaves. And these remind me of like leaves that would fall from a tree. But now these are preserved, they're shelf stable. You could store them if they're dry enough. You could also powder them up and make your own kind of green powders with your own vegetables if you want to, if you need to store them. But otherwise, always eat things fresh. Another way I like to use the greens that I grow here in my garden are to make basically wraps, or to use it as the dish or the container. So instead of using, chips and guacamole, we could use cabbage leaves in guacamole. So this cabbage leaf is nice and firm. You could literally dip your cabbage leaf into the guacamole and take a bite. And then I would probably do the double dip thing, but I'd be just eating it myself. And then you take another bite. Or you could use these as little shells or burritos. So you could fill up this with some guacamole, pico de gallo, or pate or other raw foods or whatever you're eating, and just use this as a container and eat it up. The other thing with some of the larger leaves, so here's a tree kale here, nice and large leaf. This could literally be a wrap. So instead of using a burrito wrap or a shell or nori sheets or whatever, you would literally just put your filling in here, and whether it's other cut up vegetables or pates or whatever, put it in there, and then just roll it up like you would a burrito. And so I usually fold over one side, put the filling inside here. Say we'll use the lettuce as the filling. We'll roll this side up over, and then we'll just roll this up. And I usually would, basically cut off the stem. And then you just have that as a nice big wrap and eat that wrap. And so in this way, you're going to be eating more your own fresh vegetables that you grew in your garden. So there you have it. Hope you've learned some ways to utilize and how I utilize some of the food that I grow in my garden. And it may look like I'm growing a lot, but let me tell you, it goes really fast when you start juicing. And when you're eating this stuff every day, I eat stuff from my garden every single day, and I try to eat more and more out of my garden. And I hope you do too. So this is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com, and we'll see you next time.